Well, folks, this is it. Week 1 on the new homestead. Here we are at the bottom of the driveway. We've got neighbors off to the right there. That's my folks' driveway up on top of the hill. And this is us. Everything through the low-lying places here is springs, small creeks. Here's what we're working with down here. Plenty of water. Flows pretty much year-round. And that is on both sides of the driveway. We've started putting in walkways that cross the worst of the bog and the creeks and climb the hill to my folks' place, which is way up there beyond all the trees. About 30 years ago, or up until about 30 years ago, this place was a Christmas tree farm. So now we're left with hundreds of white pine, mainly white pine, but some spruce and fir. We've got some hemlock that we're trying to save. We've had the forestry people out to give us the treatments for the diseases attacking the hemlocks. So we've been marking all the hemlocks and treating them in hopes of saving as many as possible. We've got some beautiful big old hemlocks out here. About halfway up the driveway here, we've got our spring-fed well. The original house was a tiny little, probably stone and wood structure tucked up on top of the ridge here, but it burned, collapsed, was tore down, whatever. And the previous owners put in a mobile home that they lived in while they built the house on the hill. The big house, we call it. My folks' place. And as soon as they finished the house on the hill, they left the mobile home and everything in it down here to get reclaimed by nature, which left us a bit of a mess to clean up. We've got a lot of it torn apart, but that means there's a lot of material strewn about the yard. We're looking pretty much south right now. And if we turn 180, here's our ridge with our piles of driveway stone and the sad old mobile home, the piles of stuff torn off the mobile home, and of course my ramshackle little living space over there. And of course, follow the dogs over the hill. On the other side of our house ridge runs yet another creek. My father just finished putting in a new culvert across the creek into the pasture, hayfield. This is going to be my rotational grazing field. The top of that hill over there, the farthest one, that's pretty much the edge of our property. And this line of ginormous white pines again is the other edge of our property. We've got a pretty decent fence that still runs through these pines along the boundary of our property. And it won't take too much to fix that up. There's a lot of old infrastructure still salvageable, hidden in these trees all over the property. So hopefully it won't take too much work to get fences up again. And up here, this has been the worst of the clearing job. As you can see, everything through here was completely overrun by these vines. We've got, what, 3, 4 different varieties of vines. And you can see how they've just been swallowing the trees. This is another one that we're going to have to take out. And we've been trying to kill them off at the base. Right now, we're pretty much standing in the middle of the home site clearing, which is utter chaos right now since I just rolled up yesterday afternoon and been unloading. The electric hooked up. The water's almost hooked up. We've got power to the pump. We've got the water line from the pump. We've got the spigot in place. We've just got to finish filling in our freeze-proofing pit here and hook up the pressure tank. We're going to try and find a barrel to put over top of that, protect that from the weather. And then this sad old thing has to get torn out of there, because that's right about where the utility shed's going to go to hook up to all our utilities here. We've got a, again, pretty old septic tank that's still intact down there that we'll be able to use once we've got it hooked up to things. So all the utilities are here, really, more or less. Not phone service, but everything else is here. It just needs put back together. And the original house sat right here. Was not very big at all. But that's about where we're going to sit our cabin or whatever we end up building. We've just got to open the clearing up a little bit more. This is the widest part of the house ridge. It drops off pretty sharp on that side to that creek, and on that side to the driveway and the other creek. But here we've got a relatively nice, wide, flat spot. It's about, 30, 40 feet across, which should give us a pretty decent little house site. See, we've got these daffodils everywhere. Just getting ready to bloom now. Hi, Gus. But here's the back edge of our ridge. There's the creek down there. Through the trees over there is our pasture. And everything down in that creek bottom, where all of those saplings are, that was once pond. There's another of those wolf trees. Look at this thing. This thing is massive. A lot of it's dead, especially that center, but a lot of it's not. thing's so big. Those make the perfect climbing and swing set trees if you can keep them from dying out the middle. I'd love to be able to do that with this one. But back here, we've got this lovely level space that's already cleared out. Nice and open, nice and flat, nice and soft, as you can see by the moss and such down here. And surrounded by a nice row of rhododendrons for privacy from neighbors. And this would make a perfect primitive campsite. So, if y'all ever come to visit, that might be where you get to camp. So, 1 week down, what's been happening? Well, as much as it looks like a beautiful day today, which it is, that has not been the case all week long. We had a couple of major windstorms, a whole lot of rain. I'm kind of surprised that I didn't blow off the mountain. But the camper stayed put, the awning stayed put, which was a minor miracle. So, here's what's been happening. One of the most important things that my father's still up there working on right now is getting a bit more gravel on the driveway so that those rainstorms stop threatening to swallow my car. And also so that we can get the new shed in. The shed got ordered yesterday, and it should be delivered here in about 3 weeks, end of March. So we've got a lot to get through before then. The trailer has to get out of here. The pad's got to get prepped. But we have made a good bit of headway this week. Aside from getting the driveway work done, I've also got the 2 rabbit tractors set up and ready to go. See what I did here? Strapped a crate to either end of one of these blue barrels, the 55-gallon drums. Put some old siding on top for a bit of extra shelter. But I turned these crates upside down so that the narrower wire was at the bottom and the wider gaps are at the top, which is mostly covered up by this tin here. I'll put a bit more wire on the ends. But that way you can still open the doors, and the rabbits can't go through the bottom, but they can still get at grass. We've got a door into the barrel. That'll be their inclement weather shelter. And on the barrel itself, put a couple of these latches to hold the flap down. That's just held on with a great big piece of Flex Seal. That stuff's fantastic. Use it for everything. Put half of a barrel top and some chicken wire in here to divide it. So we've got 2 completely separate rabbit boxes. I won't have to worry about any fighting. Drilled holes in the bottom for drainage, holes in the top for ventilation. It's all held together with an old pack of zip ties that someone gave me, which, sure, not too pretty or permanent, but it was here. It was free. It works. And they actually move pretty nice, which is one of the most important things, since we want to be able to graze them. Under this barrel here, we've got the pressure tank all hooked up. wired in place, working well. Watch this, guys, watch this. We've got water. I turn on the spigot and there's water. I don't have to flip breakers or anything anymore. We filled in that pit that was left here. It's all leveled out. We've got the awning up on the camper, lashed down, and a stovepipe. The wood stove is hooked back up, which will be very nice. Other than that, a lot of the week has been spent working on stuff in the camper. Had to put up some new frames for the hammocks so that they aren't taking up floor space and we can actually move around in there until we've got the shed up and ready to go. I've also spent some time trying to source some materials, pallets, posts, so on and so forth, for the rest of the work I've got to get done before Jeremy gets here this coming Thursday. It's coming along, folks. And there goes the dog. Gus, stay. She's an idiot. Oh boy.